My name's Omar. I have been doing Drupal since the dawn of Drupal. I have been in small shops. I've been in a shop that I brought from 2 people to 35 people. I have worked in government. I've worked in Acquia. I'm now at Pantheon. These are some of the big names. I've worked with a lot of the famous agencies. I know all the, personally kind of know a lot of the rock stars in Drupal because I've been around for a long time. But I don't really consider myself a developer. I'm Acquia certified developer, sure, but I'm not a programmer. I can tweak code, I can read it, and I understand Drupal concepts, but I like the clicky-click stuff. Sure, command line can be really helpful sometimes, but I don't like when I'm responsible for all the nuts and bolts and all the hard stuff. And so over the years, what attracted me with Drupal initially was that it was something where you could click your way through to creating very powerful solutions. And sure, sooner or later you'd need someone to write some code, but generally you could get really far by just clicking. And I got excited about it, and I used to describe it as being kind of the means of production in the digital age, which is kind of a Marxist reference a little bit. And the idea being that there's you need tools that you can leverage to create value today, and that's these tools, and they're open source, and hopefully they're accessible and that they're easy enough to use. So not just being open source. I was attracted to Drupal. It might not be the perfect. It's a Swiss Army knife. So Swiss Army knives have can openers. I don't know if you've ever tried to open a can with one of those. It's not easy. You got to get the technique right, but it is possible. And so Drupal sometimes like that. Not always the easiest tool to use for something, but it was one tool that could get me any result I wanted. And that was great for a little while, but then the web, everybody starts needing the web, and the requirements for what they're asking for kept getting more and more complex. And so then, at first we were all doing, working directly on prod, and that's not a good idea. So eventually it became obvious that if you wanted to do this professionally, if your livelihood is about doing this, then you shouldn't be working on prod. You should have several environments. And that's neat, but oh wow, there's some nuts and bolts that I don't want to have to build and maintain. And that became kind of obvious to at least a couple companies. Acquia and Pantheon kind of emerged around the same time to offer that kind of staged environment. And I loved that. That was great, and that's what attracted me to working at Acquia originally, and now what excites me about working at Pantheon. Thing is, though, the ball has kept moving. We are expected to, to me, once upon a time, staging was only what the Fortune 500s had, the really big corporations. And now it's being more and more expected that you should be able to work on my website and not break it, right? And you should be able to show me stuff before you show it to the world. And that should be reliable, that if I see it and I say yes to it, that you're able to put that in production and everything's still going to work just the way, to the thing I said yes to just a moment ago. And so that's becoming the kind of what everybody needs. And I think, so this long-winded way of saying, I think the next generation of that is to have continuous integration and automated testing be made available relatively, in an easy clicky-click kind of way. I don't believe in a utopia where you can just say, yeah, robots, test it, and test all the things. without having to define very, very clearly what all those things are. And eventually, if you're being that clear about it, you probably need quite some skills, and it's not just about clicking anymore. But I do think that's kind of where we're at, that the complexity of the sites we're working on involve, there's too many moving parts, too many things that can break. When you touch one part over here, something over there breaks. Or you're working with multiple people, and you need to be able to see if what you're working on collaboratively is, if one person's work is breaking somebody else's work. I haven't changed slides even yet once, but we will. The last kind of thing I would say before prefacing this is that this is a demo of one approach to testing one basic thing. There's many types of testing. There's so visual regression is what we're going to look at briefly here. We're going to see a little bit. There's functional testing, there's accessibility testing, there's load testing, and unit testing, and all kinds of other tests. The thing is, a lot of the projects fail when they try to say, oh yeah, that testing thing, that sounds like a great idea, we should do that. And then they get into it and they're suddenly overloaded, overwhelmed, because they want to test all the things, and there's just too much to test, and it's quite complex and hard. And so my advice is start small and build incrementally. Get one little thing working and build incrementally. So not only could you start with visual regression testing and then add in other types of testing, but another example is if you did want to do functional testing, it might not be the best idea to sit down and try and list every functionality of your site and then write tests for all those things, because you're still going to miss tons of use cases and edge cases and stuff. Rather, the next time you build something new, make sure that thing has a test. The next time you have a bug and you have to go back and fix something, add a test to make sure that thing that you fixed stays fixed. And then incrementally over time you can add coverage. So, there you go. I'm going to go into a little bit this other person's deck. And so this is again my way of a caveat saying, this is not my demo, this is somebody else's demo. So this is the guy who did the demo, who wrote this deck, and his name's Andrew Taylor, and he put together, he's another Pantheor, and he put together this deck. I think he worked with Matt Cheney, who was another one of the founding members of Pantheon, who will be doing the demo that you will hear and see in video form a little bit later. For those who came in late, I give a little warning up front that we're going to be watching some video here today. I'm not going to be doing it all live. We all maintain websites, right? And we love Drupal, that's why we're here. We love Drupal most of the time, except when we get overwhelmed by updates and how many of them there are, and the complexity of doing them. The notion and the importance of updates isn't going away. That's going to be here. In fact, Drupal is going whole hog on that in terms of you're going to be updating a lot of things. Drupal core in 8 is a lot bigger, has a lot more things in it. That'll simplify some of your maintenance burden, because it's been more tested in the core process. And it is, you just update core and you get everything, instead of update core and then let me chase down all my contrib updates and look at compatibilities between all those different recipes and stuff like that. But anyway, it's still going to be very regular updates, and they're going to be increasingly crucial to you. WordPress does updates, auto updates. And I'm just going to skip over this. So you might remember Drupageddon. Drupageddon was where there's a vulnerability came out, and it was so bad that the speculation was if you were not patched and fixed within a few hours, you were very likely hacked. And like, that's crazy, a few hours, like, so let's talk about what does that mean, a few hours? Like, so let's say, wow, you're on the ball, you saw the alert the moment it came out, you jumped on it, you started doing updating your first site. Like, how long did that take you? You know, trying to get your patches together. Then one site, and then 2 sites, and 3 sites. Obviously, at this point, doesn't matter how fast you were, you weren't fast enough, right? Okay. Another scenario. You get a mass update process going, right? Sure, let's just, boom, we'll update all these things, just push it out there. Really? Okay, did you sure about that? Like, did you check those things? Are they still working after you did the update? No, you need to do quality control. And that's a pain, and a time-consuming pain, and you can get back to this kind of series, this linear series of steps that the time it takes you to QA just compounds over many sites, and you can't keep up with it. And again, the QA is another one of these things where, did you test all the things, or all those pages? Did you remember to test that one particular page, bottom right-hand corner, on all those sites every time? And even if you did, and even if you could, who wants that life, right? Nobody. And you're not going to keep people if that's what you're making them do. So, yeah, this kind of summarize the title of this slide kind of speaks to what I was saying before, which is, I actually do think this is part of the future, is that platforms that are made for you. There's some platforms out there like Wix or whatever, like, just go make your stupid little page and like, we don't expect you to know anything or have any control, and that's fine. But if you're a professional developer, you're going to have to say yes to things that those templated solutions don't allow you to do, and you're therefore going to need to have systems in place that allow you to have staging, allow you to have continuous integration and testing to make sure you're not breaking the stuff that you built yesterday with the stuff you're building today. And we want the robots to do this stuff because A, that testing is hard, but even before we get to the testing, it's just to get to where you can have something you can test is hard. You got to reproduce the environment. You can't just copy. You can't just like copy the files over, copy DB over. No, because maybe over here it's being built from scratch, and if you're copying here, maybe you're missing some versions or not the right versions. You need to be able to build everything from scratch every time based on reliable recipes, and that will be done the same way every time. You also need, and that will never forget to install dependencies or build stuff from source files or complete all the tests and deploy to the right places. You know, there's a lot of commands, and as you know, you miss one semicolon in one command or one command altogether and everything fails. And you also need to communicate around like, oh yeah, I did test that thing, it's all green, you can go ahead with your work. But, you know, you can tell your partners in your team that they can proceed with their work reliably. And so one of the key strategies here is don't build all the stuff yourself. And for me, and yes, I am an advocate of platforms such as Pantheon's, and using systems such as CircleCI, but there's others, Provo CI, and many others that you can use, that allow you to, that are good at testing, and at building test environments, and at running tests, and at reporting results to you, and reporting them perhaps into your Slack channel, saying everything's green, you know, you don't have to remember to go back and check that test page. Skipping over some of this, there's code for everything I'm showing right now. These are recipes that are available. You can download. I'm showing you a recipe, a demo, which is about running, detecting security updates, applying them, running visual regression to see nothing's changed, nothing's broken, But there's another one for whenever one of your teammates issues a pull request against your Git repo, it can do all this, spin up an environment, run tests, everything's green, merge in your stuff, and keep going. So and obviously you can break it up any way you want, like don't merge yet, let me still do my manual thing just because I won't sleep all at night otherwise. What do I want to say here? This is where I could break in. I'm going to break into the video here. So I go here, I go escape, and then I try to figure out why I'm not escaped all the way. Hold on, sorry, just a second while I try to figure out. Oh, it's this thing, right? Oh, and then it's that thing, and then it's this thing again up here. And I want to go to minute, sound like, what did I say? Sorry, let me just get my notes here. I think 11:52. So let's see how it goes, and maybe like this. Have any of you guys actually done any testing so far? Who's done any testing? One person, two people, three. What kind of testing have you done?
Manual.
Click, click, click. Okay, so QA type testing. What about you, Steve?
BHAT.
BHAT, so behavioral testing.
Yeah, using Jenkins.
Jenkins.
BHAT with Jenkins, unit testing also.
What?
Unit testing and BHAT with Jenkins as well.
Okay. So let's see about this. Let's see again. Whoops! I just got to get back a little bit here.
Sort of using a machine vision loosely, kind of, basically.
There you go.
But I think the place to start, the easiest and, in my opinion, best kind of testing that we.
So again, this is the idea with that you start in one place, build on it. So BHAT testing is exactly the kind of stuff where you wouldn't start with that. And I've seen a lot of cases people trip over with BHAT because once you get into it, there's too many use cases and too many things, and you don't know how precisely you want to go, how deep you want to go, how wide you want to go. And so, how about let's get the easy stuff done and build on it slowly. And the idea is here, we think this is the first step.
Something called visual regression. And for those who aren't sort of familiar with visual regression testing, it's based.
Sorry, I'm going to do one last thing. Can somebody see my mouse? God damn, I can't see my mouse down here.
Basically, sort of using a machine vision loosely kind of comparison to do diligent difference detection. It's a term I made up, but I think it sounds really good. And
I'm sorry, one last thing. I need to try
basically
to.
It's going to take a picture of like.
I need to just like this. I'm going to speed it up a little bit, if you don't mind. I'm going to speed it up a lot.
The live website, and then it's going to take a picture of the dev website. And
Maybe too much. What do you think? I think maybe too much. As I listen to like time and a half sometime. Okay, time and a half. Let's do that.
Pictures and see what has changed, if anything. And it can do that for the home page, it can do that for the blog page, the profile page.
So one last interruption, I'm sorry. So what he just said that I interrupted too many times for you to be able to follow is the whole idea of visual regression is that you're going to take a picture of a page or any list of pages before you run the update, and then you're going to take a picture of it afterwards. And it's a security update. And in general, security updates aren't supposed to change anything, right? So if there's any change on that page, then maybe let's not really, commit this update or go to prod with this update. But if there's zero changes, then we're probably good to go. And then there's some edge cases where you have things that are going to be changing on the page just because they're dynamic, and he'll talk about that.
Hold the site map and do it for every single page. The robot kind of process here is very agreeable to such testing. It's also really quick to run. That it sort of just loads up in a Fanner.js or a Slimer.js headless browser. The site takes the picture and moves on. And there's a number of tools that have sort of been used to do this. There's Wraith, which was developed by BBC across the pond, and then Backs.js will be showing out. There's also a bunch of automated services that do this as well. It's definitely a sort of newer but very cool kind of testing process. And I think to sort of highlight the kind of detection that's happening, I'll present you with some vegetables because I'm a vegetarian. And we have a site, this is a default from Panoply, which is a Drupal 7 distribution, and you see we have some stuff here. We have a different version of some stuff. Here's version 1, version 2. And if we put them side by side, maybe you can start to see what's the difference between version A and version B. And you might sort of detect that we have some H2s here for the titles of the posts that are different colors. We might not detect that read more link also changed as well, but using a visual regression solution, we can actually explicitly call out that sort of highlighted part. These are the things that have changed. And user tech might start to spin a little bit and say, well, this is pretty cool. How about using the continuous integration stuff Andrew talked about? For every pull request, we can start to generate this kind of response. And that's basically what Wraith is set up to do. You can have a reference image, your live site. You can then have your testing image, which is your new pull request. And then you can actually do that sort of visual comparison. See, did this thing, remove this item or adjust this padding or, what actually changed. And you can actually define it to run on a tablet, mobile phone, desktop browser. You can specify a number of different viewpoints to actually make this all work, which is, of course, going to be pretty helpful. And then this, of course, can run on your whole site. So maybe you can say, look, for every feature that we run a pull request for, maybe we should get a report to find what parts of the site change at what times. The problem here, and we have a colleague, Kate Clifton, who did a talk on sort of full visual regression at Drupal Con Los Angeles, is that this actually can be very powerful, but the power sort of suggests some limits to what's actually possible with visual regression testing. That in sort of practice, there's a ton of false positives and a ton of noise that happens every time you sort of do it. That you can have dynamic content regions like ad regions or random quotes or pick some the latest comment that could theoretically change between the different comparisons. And that things that are expected to change, like if you're doing a new pull request, it's actually modifying the look and feel of the site because that's what you're doing to change the website. You're going to end up seeing results that change, but that's not actually that helpful because you don't really need to know the change. You need to know change the right way, and defining that in your visual regression test can be a little hard. So there's definitely ways to use visual regression sort of as a part of the normal review process, and that can work really well for folks. But I think when we start to think about security updates and automatic updates, I feel visual regression is the strongest at using testing for security updates. And the reason I say this is our Drupal Get security update. It's like literally one line of code from the database, .inc file that's just doing some filtering. So this random time of rate the attack for pre-SQL authentication, hack can happen. And that when we sort of think about this change on a site, that what really is going to happen to the visual design? We have here on the left our site before the security update, and we have here on the right our site after. That this bit of security code, and this is true for most security updates, we're filtering XSS, we're preventing weird kinds of attacks from surfacing, we're hardening existing filtering processes. That there hasn't been a security update that I know about in Drupal that has had to change the way the site looked for the purpose of security. And this is where I think we really get into defining the value of visual regression testing. Because I can use the robots to say, let me go ahead and do a security update, let me use the comparison before and after. If nothing has changed, then I have higher confidence that things aren't broken. And now, I'm not going to say this is the extent of all the testing you need to do. I think certainly if you had a problem with login form, for example, this isn't going to test this. If you're familiar, Drupal 5.4 came out with a release that broke the taxonomy RSS, which wouldn't necessarily break the site that's being updated, only maybe sites that rely on that RSS. But this gets you, I think, 80, 90, in some cases 100% of the way there. And everything we're talking about today, you can add more testing on too. I just think visual regression is sort of ground stakes to start. Because pixel differences matter. And red airbox, by the way, on a site is a pixel difference. It's actually a lot of pixels different. And the robots will figure that out. So in terms of sort of talking about how this works and giving you all really a tangible recipe for actually working with this technology, here's sort of the proposed workflow that we would sort of put to you. You sort of build this update checker, or use ours, we'll show you the code and do a live demo in just a minute. And you ask, in some cadence, does your site have updates? And this is cool because maybe you're an agency, you're maintaining a lot of websites for other people, part of your duties are to do updates. So we'll check, does your site have updates available? No. If everything's up to date, let's just start writing our emails to the client, being like, hey, we did some work for you, we checked your site to make sure it's up to date. Everything's up to date, here's your valuable service that we provided. We didn't do any work, but we did do work. Because knowing your stuff is up to date and having some sort of review process and some sort of assurance process, this is really valuable to people. If I'm paying a web agency to update my sites, and every month they send an email saying, look, we checked 55 times this month and we were updated each time, they're like, cool, that's something there's a place I want to be. Of course, we check and maybe we do have updates available. This is obviously going to happen. And so what we're going to want to do to actually test these updates, and I think this gets into sort of what Andrew was saying with sort of how WordPress does the live updates, is that we don't want to apply the updates directly to the live site. We don't want to do that because if they break, we don't really have any way to sort of roll that back necessarily. We also, if we have a situation where we can update the live site, that means that the file system on live is writable. So that doesn't mean that we can write or update, but it also means any other sort of sketchy code that can be run can also update the runtime PHP on our live site. And there's some strong reasons to not do that in a production environment. But we also don't necessarily want to do this just on our existing dev site. Because if we're doing dev, we might be in the middle of a project at the time the update comes out, right? The robots checking every hour, we're probably working some of those hours. So we don't want that overwriting our existing stuff. So luckily we use version control, luckily we use Git, so let's go create a new branch when we're doing this kind of updatability. And then, very important for the visual regression, let's take a snapshot right here, right now, from the live site, the database and the files, and let's set that up in a new branch. Because part of the visual regression magic is we have to have all the pixels the same. So if we don't have the latest blog post on the live site, then that could be a pixel difference, and this whole thing won't work. Plus, it's a good best practice to make sure that we're using the live database and files to copy, that is, to actually do the update check. And then we're actually going to want to go ahead and apply and commit those updates, do the update work that we have to do. And Drush and Drupal console both are great tools to actually apply this automatically, and you can totally do that. And then we're going to want to run that visual regression testing. We want to do a comparison between the live and this new environment we created, and then do any other testing, or maybe run some EHAT or some other stuff. And then we're going to do that, look at the comparisons, look at the other test results. And if you don't see any issues, right, if this update applied and things look good, they test good, then we're actually capable of saying, let's go ahead and merge that sort of Git branch we have in our sort of own separate kind of development environment, and let's deploy that out into our sort of test or formal staging environment. Let's run any additional testing we want on that test environment, and then let's go deploy that update to live automatically. And of course, we'll send an invoice for that as well, because this is even more work that we've done, although we really haven't done it, because this is all going to be done in a fashion. So hopefully you can sort of see maybe how this could be a valuable part of your workflow. There's something you can set up for every project that you do, because this is the kind of thing that every software website needs. WordPress, Drupal, other kind of custom stuff you have. This workflow is the kind of thing that you're currently spending time clicking buttons, doing updates, figuring stuff out. You can have the robots do it and work with beauty and wisdom for other things in your life. So, and of course, this isn't always going to work, right? Security updates, as we mentioned, are usually pretty low fidelity. You're not going to change the visual stuff. But if you apply this to any updates, which you can do, right? You could do just security if you wanted, but occasionally a security update also comes with some bug fixes. Plus, maybe you just want to update all of your stuff for bug fixes. You can totally get issues in testing. A new you're using some sort of contrib module, it does some cool layout thing. You have a new update, maybe it breaks something. It's always possible, and it happens. In that case, you are going to have to do some manual review. You're obviously not going to push out an update that has issues with the visual fidelity of the site. But the important thing here is that at the point where this happens, it's not like you're just starting over from scratch. It's not like you have to go, you're sitting there with an email in your spam folder probably saying updates available, and you have to go figure out what server it's on, you have to go create that dev environment. At the point that you have an issue, you already have a separate Git branch with a separate environment set up with the actual updates that you need to look at. And then you can just jump, and you have actually a visual regression report that tells you what stuff actually is broken. It may have scanned 1,000 pages and told you only 5 have problems. So you can go look at just those 5. You don't have to start from scratch and start your whole QA cycle. So this dramatically accelerates your time to actually solve real issues. And that I think is a real benefit too, because you get these responses, you get these notifications. So go fix this. Then when you fix it, you can of course deploy all really quickly. So what do we need to actually put this together? You want to go do this later this afternoon, you want to do this in the plane at home, do this next week. What needs to happen to actually make this work? Well, you're going to need a continuous integration solution to do this. That part of the magic here is that robots will run every hour to actually do the testing. So we'll show you Circle CI in just a minute. It's a service that Andrew and I have used. We use it internally at Pantheon to do these updates. Totally works. But Travis, Jenkins, Provo CI, and other kinds of CI solutions also work. That what we're actually running is a series of shell scripts and API calls. And then any service that reliably does this is totally, so definitely do what you need to do. You absolutely need command line tooling. This is only possible because the robot can speak to the Drupal site. It can use the Drupal console or a Drush to actually check updates, and then it can actually check apply those updates. And then you're going to need some sort of website management platform that has the command line interface so that you can actually create these new environments. You have to be able to create a new dev environment with new code that has the URL and a copy of the live database. So a lot of other website management platforms do this, but this is a critical feature. You need to be able to create a new dev environment on a specific Git branch to actually do this. And we have a bunch of code here we're going to show you. Do a live demo. I just want to, this is the URL, copy this /Drupal update. We'll be posting the slides and blogging about this in the Pantheon blog as well. I just want to give a shout out to Kyle Hall, who helped us we had Andrew done the original version of WordPress. I helped with Drupal, and Kyle helped to update it for Terminus 1.0 and gave some great feedback for this presentation. So that's sort of where we are with all of this. But the code itself is relatively easy to understand. We'll walk through it, and the demo hopefully will be impressive. So let's we'll have a look at that cooking show kind of out. All right, now we're into it. So we have a website. It's a site that we built last week, and a site we didn't update last week when Drupal 8.3.1 came out. Obviously, because we wanted to give this presentation. And it's a Drupal 8 site. It's got this museum kind of vibe going on, and it has an update available. And what we've done to actually sort of wire this up is we've taken that Drupal update kind of code base, we'll walk through in a minute, and we've wired it up to the Circle SCI, where we actually been doing some builds for it. So we'll just go ahead and do a quick rebuild. This is sort of kicking off that build summary. This is sort of what I understand you can run on a cron job sort of with your cadence. And what sort of happens for those who are sort of...
Just want to pause to say, what he just said, rebuild, that's the whole test. That's the only thing he's going to have to do for this test. The rest of this, he's filling the time, showing you the code while the test is doing its thing. He's just going to show you what it's doing. But and obviously, even the rebuild thing, you automate that as well. But it gets down to, like when I was asking them, hey, can I have the deck and the demo, and how do I do the demo? They're like, yeah, you press that button. And that was pretty much supposed to be it. Then I didn't get the access to the Git repo as far as I know to be able to do that. But that's it. I'm going to keep going, and we'll walk through the code and show you the actual demo is going to happen.
I've moved this with the CI, is that the CI system is going to go in, it's going to call this circle.yaml file, it's going to define some stuff, we're going to use Node to do the max.js, it's going to use PHP, of course, to use the Drupal command line tools, and then it's going to actually go ahead and it will install our max.js package to do visual regression testing. It'll install Terminus, which is our command line utility for Pantheon, to actually create environments and do that kind of stuff. And then it's actually going to run this Drupal update script. And that's sort of all we're doing, right? This isn't like a crazy, sort of wild style kind of thing. We're just going to run 130 lines of code. That's all it takes to do this. And like some percentage, this is Slack notifications and comments. And so what happens is basically we're just like, hanging out and saying like, hey, are there updates available? And then if not, with, then we're going to run through some logic to actually see this. But one of the things sort of we've done to think like this is we actually have the output here from Circle, where it's actually going to go and sort of do all the different things you're seeing here. It's installing maxed out right now. And this is sort of cool. This is a little more sort of on the technical side, where you can actually see, as I was saying, the full output of some of these responses. You can SSH in the machine and sort of look at stuff when you're building it if it goes wrong. But we've actually abstracted this over to Slack, because we know a lot of you are working in teams. You have different responsibilities, and one of the things that I really like sort of with some of the updates we have at Pantheon is that we can actually see the Slack bot come in and tell us when various different things are happening. So let's get that a little bit for you. So what we've done is we've actually kicked off that build, so we know the build's happening. We're going to go use Terminus to log in with a machine token. So we don't need to store any passwords in the script or anything like this. We just take our machine token, authentication token, and put it in a Circle environment variable. So it's not even in the Git repository. And that allows us to go in and actually set up that new development environment. It allows us to say, let's go create a branch, we'll call it update DR for Drupal, and let's go copy the live database and copy the live files over to that new environment. And like this will go relatively quickly because our site's relatively small. But for folks that have really large sites, when you're copying a database that's like a gigabyte or like files that are like 5 gigabytes, that's like a sizable amount of time that you have to spend. But like, why would you want to sit there and like wait for all of that to go through? Like that's actually something that could be a little onerous. But like the robots are happy to wait. They'll be waiting long after we're gone for other things. And why not have some automation to this? Because we do want to have that pristine version of the light site. It's very important that the thing look exactly like the site that we have. And this is where I think, especially when we start to talk about not just one site, but 10 sites or 100 sites or maybe 1,000 sites, depending on sort of your situation, that having scripts that sort of run automatically is really important. So we're going to go in and we're going to go ahead and do a little update check. This was going to turn this little check, say, hey, we have an upstream update available. Well, we do, Drupal 8.31. So it's gone ahead and actually gave us the link to the release notes in case you want to check it out. But the robots are already going in and applying an update. So if we go in and actually look on Pantheon, we'll see that we actually have this. And it's actually doing the applying upstream update right here. It's telling us it's doing it. But the robots are also telling us that it's doing it over here. And that's sort of cool, right? Like I'm not, like no hands here, people. It's just sort of all happening for us in real time. And then of course, Drupal core updates are important. We definitely want to make sure that we do those. But one of the things that I think, and we've been releasing on Pantheon, a lot of systems have one-click updates for Drupal core. But the trim modules actually are really, honestly, where I have more problems because they're dwarfing, of course. They don't always come out, the security ones come out Wednesday, but other updates can come out whenever. And I want to test those too, because they're actually the ones that are probably more likely to break the site. So Drush has a really awesome PM update code functionality. If you run that, it just gives you a list of all the different things that are there. We actually run Drush PM update status, and we get all the results here in a list using Drush. And it actually is like, okay, cool, we actually have updates available. Entity reference revisions and paragraphs module. Those are two modules used on the site. They have new versions. So the next thing we're going to do is run Drush PM update code that actually downloads the newest versions, puts it in there. We're currently using Drush to do these updates. You can modify this to use Composer to do the updates as well. It's just like functionally a few lines of script when you're actually calling the checks and the updates. But assuming that's all good, well, because this is Slack, we're going to put this cool, like, fun get in there. Because we're going to actually do something so people know. And then we're going to go in and actually kick off that visual regression test. We're going to look at the live environment, we'll look at the update DR environment, and we'll notice that there are no visual differences detected. This is the key point of the process. Because once we realize that there are no visual changes, 0 pixels different, suddenly deploying it out to dev makes a lot of sense because things are cooking. And let's deploy it out to test as well. Pantheon has a the multi-dev branch, the dev branch, the test branch, and the live. You'll see we're actually deploying the test right here. And then one thing that we sort of put in the script, partially because when we sort of hear wanting to do things like YOLO style, where we're only going to live once, we're sort of concerned, we also think about it forever, and so that can be sort of a problem. So before we actually do any live deployments, we're going to use that same command line tool to go ahead and let's just do a quick backup for the live environment, just to make sure. We don't think there's any problem, we run our test, but we'll have that live environment there. So it's like we do start to get a bunch of our ping moments go crazy after this happens. Actually restoring this is nothing more difficult than being like, okay, live environment, let's go ahead and check the backups, and then we'll hit restore to restore the one we want. There's definitely a way to make that really easy. But then when we actually hit it, we'll go ahead and deploy the live. This whole script has literally taken let's say 7 minutes, 30 seconds to actually run. And this is done backups, this is done live copies, and this is also something that, by the way, with live continuous integration solutions, unlike your own self, we can run this 100 times all at once. That there's nothing that's required to say we can only do this for one site at a time. So if we are responsible for managing 100 sites, we can run this 100 times, 100 robots, and do it. And then at the end, it actually is like, cool, updates have been applied and tested. Here's a copy of our updated site, and it actually shows us what's happening. And that's pretty cool, right? We got 8 minutes, and we got this updated, and everything is ready to go. Let's go. Good. And then give us a little success. And I think sort of, when we're thinking, we'll take some questions here in just a minute, but when we're actually sort of thinking about continuous integration, this is something that can be used in conjunction with a lot of other kind of technologies. That I think once you get out of visuals anyway, once you get hooked on continuous integration, there's so much other really cool stuff you have. And there's sort of just a little bit of a hurdle to get over to actually sign up for Circle and understand how the Circle YAML works. And in some cases, relearn bash scripting, because you do sometimes write some bash scripts, and maybe that's not something that you've done in a while. But once you sort of get the vibe for it, it ends up being really, really awesome. And it's something that I think, from a sort of perspective here, in the Drupal community, more and more of the Drupal tasks and things that Drupal 8 require is you're going to want to use Composer to actually do your assembly for Drupal 8 site. Having Composer do it is a good plan. You're going to want to compile your SaaS and JavaScript assets having Composer, or having a CI system do this good. And as I said, there's a few different CI systems. We use Circle also because Circle has a freemium model where you can have one container run constantly for free. And Circle also is very agreeable to open source projects. So if you want to use this kind of testing for your own module or your own project on GitHub, as long as it's a public project, you get I think up to 3 more sort of free containers to actually run all that. And that's something that I think you can get sort of a lot of fun doing. So just for kicks, we're actually just going to run it again. We've already updated the site, right? So no craziness behind the mirror here. But it's something that I think the update case is actually relatively light. We end up seeing is it actually passes more times than not. And that's a little worried because every time I sit there, it's like, okay, cool, it's update, on other stuff. So we'll let this run, but we're happy to take a few questions. But in general, we think this is the way that you can totally update your sites. We'd love to chat with you. We'll be around for the rest of the conference and online. And this is something that we're really passionate about. We hope to try this out for your sites and have a good time. Thank you everyone for listening.
So, Whirlwind, thanks for watching that, accepting my watching, showing you a video like that. Who wants a piece of that kind of stuff? I mean, yeah, right? And build on it a little more over time. And yes, I am here with the Pantheon shirt, showing you a Pantheon demo that was done on Pantheon. But as they pointed out, there's other platforms there, there's other tools. But this is the way things are going. A lot of work's been done on these kind of things at Pantheon recently. You can imagine the competitors are looking at this too. I think the Drupal community, we've been talking DevOps for a few years now, but it was still kind of, it takes a while for conversations to mature a little bit, and it takes a while for people to realize, whoa, we tried to do that, and now we're spending 40% of our time maintaining the system that's supposed to be saving us time. And I've seen that again and again in many contexts. And so I think some of those recipes are maturing. Some of them are being pretty soon, even getting, like he indicated here, that to set this up, no big deal, but you got to create an account on Circle, and you got to get your machine token and put it in the right place. No big deal. Like, you guys are, if you're even in this session, you're probably no problem with any of that stuff. However, even that is, you can miss steps. Even that, setting up testing environments can be complex. And I actually don't want it to be just you guys. I want, the same way I was excited about Pantheon bringing dev like staging to the masses, like their entry level things like $30 a month, and you have like really great top class staging environment. And I want that. I want testing to be accessible to the masses as well, to the mom and pops. Not like the full on hat thing. Like if they want to get that level, they're going to have to tool up, learn up. But to get some basic sanity checks in place that do probably go beyond a little bit, like can I log in? Like probably can I log in? Can I create an article? Can I create a few things that could just be like out of the box, and where you come to a service like Pantheon and you click a button saying, yeah, give me that, and then they have a partnership with some other testing thing that gives you a one site type thing. So for example, and then if you want to do it for every commit in your organization, well then you're going to have to pay up for a better kind of higher level of account. But so we have another demo that I tried the other day, is automated load testing. So this isn't necessarily the load testing where you want to replicate your biggest traffic moments. You can do that, but that might cost you money because generating that much traffic just costs money. But you might want to just know, hey, that if I were to hit this one app server with a certain medium level of traffic, just enough to make sure I'm stressing it a little bit, and then look at my New Relic results to see how things look this time versus the last time. So on every commit, so there's another recipe, just install it, it's right there. It's like takes 10 minutes to install, and it's every commit that gets pushed to your test environment will launch a mini load test using another third-party service that'll send 50 concurrent users and ramp it up a certain way and keep doing it for like 5 minutes, and then you get to look at your New Relic and see that commit, the traffic generated to that load test versus the previous one, and it gives you, of course, metrics because that's what they do best. We do development environments, they do testing, load testing, or other kind of testing. So, what else do I want to say? That's, so one thing that we didn't see here that in the questions does come up, so I'll just mention it, is, yeah, but what about my slideshow? That will be different. Or my random quote of the day, that will be different on every snapshot of the screen. Well, this backstop system, you can just exclude, any class and like a CSS class or ID, or you can exclude pixel top left to bottom right kind of thing, to just ignore those areas. Now, of course, if you do too much of that, the reliability of your tests, you're starting to ignore stuff that maybe someday will break and you won't know it because you're ignoring it. But that, eventually complexity will remain. And so that's, I think, pretty much what I wanted you guys to be exposed to, because so just to circle right back to the beginning, I'm a guy who's always liked being able to clicky-click stuff if I can. I don't want my life to be spent doing repetitive things. I have my sort of political leanings are like power to the people type thing. I want mom and pops to have a fighting chance to be able to compete with, or to get good business. Some part of the market's going to be automated away. And so if you want to survive and keep having people paying you for your hours, you need to ramp your game up a little bit. You need to get more sophisticated in what you're doing. And so these kind of tools, being able to have staging, you say, yeah, we load tested it too, and look at your new relic charts are green, or whatever, is key. And so I'm really excited to see this stuff move ahead and all that. Without trying to imagine that all the complexity is gone, it's not. hard things will remain somewhat hard, but at least we make them easier and we get rid of some of the redundancy. Any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
In terms of time to deploy this or to configure the visual test per se, since they don't cover everything, if you want to at least, like you said, exclude some things or have the first go at it, in terms of time budget, how do you?
This particular thing that was demoed that did not exclude any areas, I think with the recipes in place and you're skilled, you're under an hour, and I think if these guys had to redo it, I'm sure they're doing it in 15 minutes. Maybe first time take you a couple hours time, but no, the recipe is there. It's pretty clear what you have. You just create your Circle account, create, in this case, your Pantheon account, create a machine token on Pantheon, put it over in the right place over here, in Circle, and then point it at the right domain that you're going to be, right URL that it's going to be testing, right environment. It's pretty straightforward. Now, excluding stuff, like I said, in fact, he showed you the code, right? It's pretty short. And most of that code, like he said, was actually about pushing those comments to Slack. Most of that configuration was just about connecting to the Slack channel to do that. There's very little. It was actually the real stuff. And then there's another bit of the code where it's the actual backstop test, and where there's one section about add your things to exclude here. It's all pretty tight, pretty doable. Now, beyond that, and you're one of the people who mentioned BHAT, you kind of know that if you really want to do BHAT testing and stuff, you're probably doubling your development time, doubling your budget, and that kind of thing. And that's not something most people want to pay for. That's why starting with something like this, and then instead of and then trying to look for the low-hanging fruit on the additional things that you BHAT. So again, this load testing thing I mentioned, I was given the recipe, it wasn't mine, and I had that up in like 15 minutes, that's really great. Now, putting the two together, probably you have to scratch your head a little bit more, but not much. And if you're doing BHAT, you're definitely gonna feel very comfortable doing these things. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, anyone? Yes.
One more. Maybe related more to Pantheon, in a way to, like you said, be able to test multiple sites at once. Does Pantheon allow for creation of one VM for just one instance and only have to pay for this? Because in terms of passing the buck to the client in terms of fees, I don't want necessarily the client to have to pay for the permanent testing server. Is Pantheon offering that?
So the question is specifically about Pantheon's offering. Let me answer it to you a couple other ways. First of all, this testing is happening on Circle, not Pantheon really. Pantheon is, in this case, allowing you're spinning up a multi-dev, what we call multi-dev environment. If you sign up for an agency's account, you just say, yes, I'm an agency, and you'll get one of those. You will have multi-devs. So multi-devs are basically like feature branches in Git, and you can have as many, I think, it's not as many. I think we cap it at 10, and if you really needed more, we could give you more. And that's no extra cost. And you can actually get all that for free today. The only thing we'll start charging you when you want live to have a real domain attached to it. But until then, you can play with all the tools for free and do the Circle thing, test that out. And like he mentioned here, Circle has also a freemium kind of model where they'll give you one environment and one concurrent test or something like that. And the load testing thing I mentioned, which was another service, I can't remember which one it was, but it was another one that had one concurrent testing. So if you wanted every developer on your team to be having all this all the time, then yeah, you're going to have to pay to true up those accounts a little bit more on those other services, actually, not on Pantheon. But otherwise, in the load testing thing, it's on test. So everybody, all their multi-devs get merged into dev, and it's only when stuff goes from dev to test that you're actually running the load test, maybe in that case, in that particular case. And so again, that would still be in the freemium model. And I think there's something else I wanted to say about that. I guess it's just about the multi-dev environments. They have their own containers, and everything's isolated. And your PHP versions and all that are isolated. They get deployed along with your code, so you can, just add one line that says which PHP version you want this environment to have, and as you deploy that PHP version goes with it, and you go, oops, no, whoops, sorry, revert, and it'll revert and all that. So every environment's separate, and they're all in containers, and so not VMs, containers. Yeah. All right. Okay, well that's it. Thanks for your attention.